Point of view switches to Sung Jinwoo and Jinho staring down the biggest gate Jinho has ever seen. Now, of course, it's not as big as the one Sung Jinwoo cleared in Gwangwali, but it's still pretty big. And this is technically going to be their first official raid as the Ajin Guild. As they walk up to the gate, they're attacked by reporters and fans. Sung Jinwoo at this point is a bona fide celebrity. They were asking him any and everything. How'd you come up with the name Ajin? What's the relationship with your fellow founding member Soo Yoon? He's then approached from Mr. Woo from the Hunters Foundation. And for those of you who don't remember, Mr. Woo is Gung Go Hee's right-hand man. Jinwoo asks him, I thought the association was keeping my private information secret. What's going on? Mr. Woo replies, we can protect your private information, but we can't stop people from knowing where these massive gates are. And on top of that, we have no control over what your employee posts on social media, referring to Soo Yoon. Sung Jinwoo says, yeah, my bad, I'll keep that in mind. He then asks Sung Jinwoo, don't you think we should call a hauling team or a mining team? And Jinwoo's like, nah, I can handle this myself. I'll just have my shadows do all the work for me. Mr. Woo then takes a reading on all his shadows and he finds out they're all B rank or higher. If they were a squad of human hunters, they'd be more than qualified to enter an A-rate gate. He tells his associates that Sung Jinwoo is good to go, but in his head he thinks he's making a fool of all the people who are debating whether or not this was preferential treatment, because it definitely is. Then he suits up in armor himself and tells them the chairman ordered him to observe the raid. He wants to know if this is really a safe idea. Sung Jinwoo's like, alright, but are you gonna be okay? Mr. Woo's like, what you mean? And a few minutes later, he finds out exactly what Sung Jinwoo meant. The gate they entered is filled to the brim with A-rank magic beasts called the Naga. Sung Jinwoo's army is having a field day with they ass. You got Tank ripping shoulders out their sockets. You got the high orcs replacing their spines with swords. You got the ants literally playing with their food. And Biru, my boy Biru, snatches one of their heads clean off their necks. I'm telling you, bro might be a better aura farmer than Sung Jinwoo. And Mr. Woo is amazed with what he's seen because normally the best of hunters would have problems facing the Naga, especially so many. But the beasts are no match for Sung Jinwoo's army because his shadow soldiers just keep on regenerating. He notes to himself that one is especially powerful, referring to Igris. Then we see Igris do some shit that's gonna go crazy in anime. He swings his sword and a massive lightning storm spawns. Mr. Woo thinks to himself, only mages of the highest level can wield lightning magic, but he creates a spark every time he swings his sword. See sparks of lightning from Igris' sword dash all the way around the gate, eviscerating multiple Naga at a time. First, Mr. Woo was like, is he A-rank? He's like, nah, he gotta be higher than A-rank. Then he thinks to himself, would I be able to win if we fought one-on-one? Side note, when I read that little bubble, I thought to myself, come on bro, you know good and goddamn well you do not have a chance against Igris. At this point, most of the Naga are defeated and they start moving on to the mining phase of the gate. And of course, per usual, the ants are eating up all the good shit, so Sung Jinwoo gives one a quick, swift kick in the ass. He said, hey, I told y'all not to eat those. Y'all have any idea how valuable those corpses are? He tells his other shadows to keep mining those crystals. Watching Sung Jinwoo crack the whip over his shadow soldiers during like the mining phase of the gates is hilarious to me. Mr. Woo thinks to himself again, he's capable of clearing an A-rank dungeon, retrieving corpses and mining mana crystals all by himself. This isn't just a one-man strike squad. But before he can finish his thought, the final boss Naga appears and bro is ginormous. Jinwoo stares him down and he says, those of you working can stay, everyone else return to my shadow. And you see everybody who wasn't mining come right back to Sung Jinwoo's location. Now this confuses Mr. Woo. He's like, why'd you have them go away? They could easily take down this Naga by themselves. Jinwoo says while materializing a sword, relying too much on my shadows makes me lose my touch and I gotta keep my senses strong. Then almost faster than the eyes can track, he launches himself in the Naga's direction. Lands on his forehead, hits him with 2 quick slashes, and jumps right back. And again, my boy Mr. Woo is watching this in complete awe, like bro's jaw's been open the entire trip. Sung Jinwoo just one-shotted an A-rank dungeon boss. Sung Jinwoo suddenly gets a notification from the system alerting him that he is upgraded to level 101. Which means all his job-specific skills like Shadow Extraction, Shadow Exchange, Monarch's Range have also leveled up. And this actually caught Jinwoo by surprise. He said, I can't believe I leveled up my job skills. Now the cooldown of the Exchange skill went down by an hour. It means eventually if he keeps leveling up Shadow Exchange, he'll be able to use it without a cooldown freely. He'll never have to worry about his mother's or sister's safety again. Mr. Woo's thinking to himself, the Naga scales are tough enough to be used as shields of armor, but bro just sliced through them with 2 daggers. And suddenly you hear Sung Jinwoo utter the word, arise. I know what y'all think of my rise. Can I be a voice actor? Let me know. Slowly we see the shadow arise from the Naga's corpse. The system tells him he has successfully enhanced his power and the shadow will start at level 13, which is the exact same level Tusk started out at. This also means thanks to him leveling up Shadow Extraction, the Naga is as strong as he is when he lived. The only thing is, he's a little bit smaller now, and usually they're the same size or they grow bigger when they become shadows. Even with that being the case, he is emitting an enormous amount of mana, so Sung Jinwoo was like, this is still a plus for me. Maybe he's like Tusk to where he can use magic to grow in size. Now that the Naga is fully extracted, the only thing left to do is give him a name, and for this one, Sung Jinwoo goes with Gemma. Now I think this is the first time Jinho watched Sung Jinwoo exchange a shadow, because he thinks to himself, wow, he turned that powerful monster into one of his summoned beasts. He's truly incredible. Suddenly the ceiling starts rumbling, which means it's time to exit this gate before it closes on us. Before they head out, they have to figure out something to do with that giant corpse, because giant corpse means good money. In the gate, you see the army reporters still there waiting for their return, and Tusk is the one to drag out the giant carcass of the Naga. Instantly begins snapping a million photos, and you see Tusk start to blush a little bit, which is kind of cute. Who would have known shadows can get a little shy? All the reporters are trying to get Jinwoo's attention, and Jinho marvels at the fact that there are even more reporters now than when they went in. Jinwoo mentions the fact that everyone seems to be interested in their first raid. In the back, you see Mr. Wu is still like, what the fuck just happened? The point of view then switches to Mr. Wu back at the Hunter's headquarters debriefing with Go Gun Hee. Mr. Go is not surprised at all. In fact, he laughs at the recount of the story. He said, "You've seen many different raids over the years, Mr. Wu. However, after hearing your report, I understand why even a veteran hunter like yourself found it overwhelming." Mr. Wu replied, "Respectfully, sir, what I witnessed was not a raid. That shit was a motherfucking massacre." Mr. Go says, "Alright, Mr. Wu, go get some rest. I can tell your ass need it." And now, all alone in his office, he thinks to himself, Sung Jinwoo cleared an A-rank dungeon, retrieved the corpses of magic beasts, and mined crystals. Calling him a one-man strike squad would be an understatement. He's a one-man guild. The very thought of that made him laugh and smile to himself, because that means he made the right call. Hunters of Korea know, from all over the world, are about to see the tides turn. The point of view then switches to Tokyo, Japan, where things are going to absolute shit. Smack dab in the middle of Shinjuku, a ginormous red gate just appeared. Last words of the chapter read, "A gargantuan presence menacingly looming in the sky." The point of view switches to the Chinese Hunters Association. These three guys are from various guilds, and they're marveling at the fact that all the major guilds, the Blades, the Phantoms, the Invincible Kings, and the Snowy Mountains, are being called into one meeting, which means China must be facing an immeasurable crisis. Suddenly, some of the strongest S-rankers in Japan walk in, and one of them says, "Isn't that Sujimoto Rigi, the Vice Guildmaster of the Blade Guild? And those are their strongest S-ranks." And the other one quickly corrected him. He said, "You idiot, that's the Guildmaster now, that's not the Vice Guildmaster." The Blades lost 7 S-ranks during the Jeju Island raid, including Goto Ryuji, right? And the third one said, "Yeah, I heard it was because they were carrying out the Chairman Matsumoto's crooked scheme." And these were clearly some haters, because they were happy of the fact that they're down bad after having most of the S-ranks in their guild. One of them says, "Who knows, if we play our cards right, we might have a shot at becoming the greatest guild in Japan." And then suddenly all 4 of the S-rank Blade members look at them with these cold stares, and them hating ass niggas turn around and act like they wasn't saying a word. And one of the S-rankers says, "Those losers couldn't even look us in the eye before, but they're getting cocky now that Mr. Goto's gone. Opportunistic bastards. I heard a rumor going around about the Phantom Guild acquiring the Snowy Mountain Guild." And then the lady S-ranker says, "Those 2 guilds have 4 S-rankers combined, same as us. They think merging together would make them the strongest guild in Japan now that Mr. Goto is dead. But even with all 4 S-rankers, they still don't stand a chance against these 4. The meeting officially begins, and one of the high-ranking officials says, "Why hasn't the Hunters Association said anything yet? The S-rank gate spawned in the heart of Tokyo, and you're telling me the association doesn't have any countermeasures? Tell us the truth. What if a dungeon break occurs? Then what? Even S-rank hunters aren't strong enough to clear S-rank gates. But national level hunters, on the other hand." One of the guild masters cuts him off, and by the looks of him, he's been through some shit. He says, "Prime Minister, you've summoned all the guild masters of Japan's major guilds today, so please refrain from asking such obvious questions. We all saw what happened on Jeju Island. It's pretty clear what will happen." Another guild master echoes his sentiment. He says, "Pessimistic remarks won't help the situation either. We need to be discussing concrete plans. That said, how about we hire Thomas Andre?" And then bro, who I'm assuming is a treasurer or something like that, is basically like, "Yeah, we ain't got the money for that." S-rankers across the world are becoming a scarce resource because the amount of gates opening daily globally is increased. Hiring S-rankers instead of national hunters would be a lot cheaper, but most countries aren't willing to send their S-rankers around right now. Then the guild master in the green jacket spoke up. He said, "There's one. There's a hunter who's willing to help as long as he's paid. The barrier specialist named Yuri Orlov." The point of view then switches to Sung Jinwoo in traffic, who is currently living his best life. He's marveling at the fact that he's level 101 now, he's obtained the key to the Cardinal Temple, and all the job specific skills have leveled up to 101. Bro is living his life like it's golden. He says to himself, "I look forward to seeing what happens once I reach level 102. He then starts to think about Jinho. He wonders how he's holding up, and he appreciates all the hard work he's doing, but he knows he needs to hire more people to help him out. Then suddenly, Sung Jinwoo senses somebody, senses a presence. And he looks to the left, looks to the right, and it's none other than Cha Hae-in. But first tries to act like she didn't see him and he didn't see her. So Sung Jinwoo shadow walked to her and asked, "Why are you running from me?" And what are you doing near my office? She says she's on this side of town because she left her car in his parking lot. And then Sung Jinwoo remembers, oh yeah, last time they were together, they shadow exchanged to the hunter's headquarters. She then asks him if he's free to talk about something. And before he can respond, a million questions pop up in her head. Why did he take that photo with Soo Yoon? Does she really work for him right now? And if so, why did she get hired instead of Cha-hae? Isn't an S rank better than an A rank? Are the two dating? She then goes on to say, I'm asking because Min Byung-gu asked me to relay a message to you about your powers. And this immediately sparks Sung Jin-woo's interest. He invites her upstairs and the two head on into the building. When they get inside, the building is completely empty and she asks why isn't anybody here? To which he says the Vice Guildmaster is out on business. And this makes Cha-hae a little bit nervous because she's like, oh shit, it's just us, we alone. But Sung Jin-woo gets straight to business. He says, so tell me, how did Min manage to give you a message for me? And he explains how she saw Min that day that he brought her back to life. Brought her back from the brink of death. And on the way out the void, he asked her to tell him to be careful of the powers that lie within him. And he explains that someone pulled him out of an endless darkness, but he was no longer himself. He was still conscious and he still had a sense of self, but at the same time he felt like he'd become a slave and was revived only to serve Sung Jin-woo. But the scarier part was, he felt happy to serve him. And Cha-hae asks, what do you mean? He responds that Sung Jin-woo's powers are incredibly strong and frightening, and he needs to know about them. And his last words before they parted ways were, remember, Sung Jin-woo's true army is, and then he repeats it again, his true army is, and then the point of view switches before we can actually get an answer. We see Sung Jin-woo, I believe in a gate, eating a Subway sandwich, and he's pondering to himself, I wonder if what she said is true. Either way, I need to find out the source of my powers, and at this point, it's more important than becoming a stronger hunter. And Jin-ho interjects, this reminds me of the days where we used to raid C-rank dungeons, sir. And Sung Jin-woo was like, bro, stop talking with your mouth full. Then Jin-ho asks, your shadows can move on their own, so why not just go about your business and let them do all the work? Now he replies, I can't do this, and in his head he's thinking about the experience points that he doesn't get the farther he is away from his soldiers. But he actually tells Jin-ho there's no telling what those guys will do when he's not looking, pointing at the ants. Side note, we all know Sung Jin-woo don't play about his XP. Jin-ho then asks, by the way, how's your sister doing? She's been through a lot. And he replies, the doctor says she needs rest for the time being. My most trustworthy shadow is looking after her, so she should be safe. And him calling this shadow his most trustworthy shadow is hilarious. I'm gonna explain in a second. He then thinks to himself, come to think of it, I could check on her right now. Then he explains the skill shared senses. This is an effect that allows him to see pretty much whatever his shadows are seeing. He closes his eyes and opens them and he sees a drama playing on TV. And the shadow watching that drama is no other than Biru himself. When bro was talking about his most trusted shadow, it was Biru, and I love that for him. And this is hilarious because Biru was literally yelling at the TV. Gina had fell asleep and I guess Biru had picked up a TV habit. So bro is locked in watching whatever K-drama is on at the moment. Jinwoo sees that everything's fine with Jin-ah and decides to check on the others. The first one he checks on is his mom, and she's doing some grocery shopping or something along those lines. And then the next person he sees is currently in a shower, and you see the water splashing at the bottom of the basin. When the picture gets a little clearer, we see is no other than Cha-hae taking a bath. Jinwoo, you naughty boy. Jin-ho snaps him back to reality and asks him if he dozed off for a second because my brother was in La La Land. And Jinwoo clearly feels guilty. He thinks to himself, I should apologize to her for that. Maybe I'll ask her to dinner or something. Jin-ho then changes the subject and says, by the way, did you hear about the news? An S-rank gate popped up in Japan, and if it's not cleared within 3 days, there's gonna be a dungeon break. I hear Japan's been recruiting hunters from all over the world. Have you been contacted yet? And Jinwoo thinks to himself, has it already been that long since it spawned? He tells Jin-ho, yeah, he got the call, but he's been taking the time to think it over because he has a few other pressing matters to attend to. He then summons the key to the Cardinal Tunnel, and you see there's only 26 hours, 51 minutes, and 49 seconds left, which means in less than a day, he'll be able to go back to where it all started. And he thinks to himself, an invitation from the system itself. I wonder what kind of answers I'll find there. And he continues, what exactly are you? Don't you think it's about time you told me? Then he closes his inventory and tells Jin-ho it's time to get back to work. The point of view then switches back to the Chinese government building. Yuri Orlov has finally made it to China and he's introducing himself. He says, I am Yuri Orlov, and as you know already, people call me the best support type hunter in the world. He continues, I had a chance to look over the files the Blade Guild sent me, and I gotta say, it was smart of you to evacuate all the citizens. Side note, bro here sipping vodka in their face is kind of giving like drunk Russian. He continues, however, it seems like you lack manpower. Is it true that Japan can only send 6 S ranks on that mission? The Blades Guildmaster responds, yes. 1 S rank from each guild must stay behind to take care of all the A rank gates that have appeared across Japan. And the same goes for our guild. The 3 of us are going to participate in the raid and 1 S rank is going to stay behind. Then Yuri responds, clearly drunk by the way, you can see it in his face and eyes. No, that won't do. How do you expect to protect the country with that plan? He then slams his bottle on the table and says, I'ma need 3.6 billion. That translates to 10 million a day. Hire me and I'll hold back that gate for as long as you want.